projects that we have. So we have something called the Center of Excellence and Ohio Rise, which some of you may have heard of. That is a new program that comes on July 1st through Medicaid and some of our licensed providers for children and families. So we have been working on that for quite some time now with our different agencies. We have resource home recruitment, so a recruitment effort for foster parents and resource homes here in Ohio. Bridges, which will be spoken about today, Ohio Reach, and early childhood mental health.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Anna Kelly. I am the program manager for the early childhood mental health programs. They are our newest programs at the Ohio Children's Alliance. We're going to speak about the 3 newest programs today. So we know that early intervention is key when we talk about children and mental health. We know early intervention will decrease those concerning behaviors you might see at home or you might see in a child care center. It can reduce the number of suspensions and expulsions from school. It improves classroom quality, reduces stress, burnout, and turnover of staff. So the Ohio Children's Alliance was given about $5.5 million through the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, the American Rescue Plan Act funds. We are serving as a subgrantee of the Ohio Child Care Resource and Referral Association, which I will continue to refer to as OCRA. And we will administer 3 statewide programs to support, expand, and strengthen infant and early childhood mental health. So the first program I'm going to speak about today is our Mental Health Bridge program. So the goal of this program is to link child care centers and behavioral health providers together so the child care center, along with support from the parent, can make a direct referral for mental or behavioral health for a child or a family. So by establishing this new referral platform, Mental Health Bridge will connect the child care centers and the parents to a network through OCA to provide in-home, office-based, center-based, or virtual mental health services to young children and their families. We're currently in the pilot phase of this program, focusing here in Franklin County. So look for it. Maybe if you have children in some centers, you might get some literature soon that says your center is going to be part of this pilot program. So how it works is Ohio Children's Alliance, my team, will train these child care centers on how to make a behavioral health referral. This is all in collaboration with the parents, families, along with having support and permission. And then our providers will also get some training on how to receive these referrals that are coming directly from a child care center. So on our end, we will ensure that these referrals are picked up by a provider and that no child is going to fall through the cracks. Our goal is so you as families don't have to make that cold call to a behavioral health provider, that will have a network of providers that will be in connection with your child care center. So again, just building on a connection. So all of the providers that we are using are OMOS and certified, and this is also in support of the Whole Child Matters and with the support of OCRA. Our second program we're working on is actually kind of a 2-pronged program. So it is expanding the infant and early childhood mental health expertise through professional development. We're doing this in 2 ways. The first way we're doing this is we have 15 trainings coming out this summer on OCRA, which, if you're not familiar with OCRA, it is a site where you can take training. It's open to anyone, and the trainings are free. The trainings that we are providing are asynchronous, which means that they're on demand to you. You can stop and start them at any time. So in a next slide, I'll show you what trainings we have coming out. And then the other part of this program is we are establishing at least 50 early childhood mental health credentials and 150 Ohio infant mental health credentials. The early childhood mental health credentials are for mental health staff through our provider agencies. And Ohio Infant Mental Health credentials can be obtained by anyone, depending on what your education level is, and really trying to gear it toward to center staff. So we put out a grant for application, and we have awarded 12 of our member agencies 57 early childhood credentials and 122 Ohio Infant Mental Health credentials. We are covering over 50 counties in Ohio with this grant, and as you can see on the slide, about 2/3 of them are going to fall in rural counties where we know that there isn't a lot of providers there, so we're hoping to strengthen this program in these rural counties. So we have about the rest of them are about 1/3 is urban, or 1/4 is urban, and then partially rural is the rest. And some trainings you will be able to find on Okra, which are free for anyone to take, include effects of intrauterine and intergenerational trauma, understanding fetal alcohol syndrome, behavior as a child's first language, understanding play development, coaching model for parents, building resiliency, and transforming clinical practice through reflection. And again, those should come out sometime this summer, beginning the end of this month. And then our third program we have is expanding therapeutic child care. The goal of this program is to expand the access to evidence-based intensive services by providing grant dollars to promote new and expanding existing therapeutic child care centers. We know that there is a shortage of staff that are trained and knowledgeable about infant and early childhood mental health. So we are establishing programs where a clinician will be embedded in the school day in varying capacity. The programs that we've awarded funding to are all very different. I was hoping to tell you who got the money today, but we are still waiting on contracts to come back. So if you are interested on who is providing these services, please check our website in the next week or so, and it will let you know in what areas. I can tell you we are doing it in Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Toledo, and Knox County. So we will promote new and expanding programming in those areas. So again, it will have a clinician embedded and center staff that will be trained in varying degrees or different programs of mental health. So the Ohio Moss License Center will partner with ODJFS Licensed Child Care Program. As I said, they'll be an embedded clinician, and they will implement therapeutic child care. There's a lot of different programs out there, Conscious Discipline, PCIT, Second Step, Incredible Years, just to name a few. So those will be happening throughout the school day. Some programs will have 24 students, some have over 200. It was a very highly competitive grant. We had 13 proposals. We only accepted 6. And we will be establishing programs in Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, Toledo, and Knox County. And we should be getting these programs as early as this summer. Okay, I reached this back to you, Heather.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
I just jumped on the site real quick for the trainings. I'm just wondering, like, where will I find those trainings?
Where would you find those trainings?
Yeah, the 15 different trainings that I'm going to be
On Okra's website.
It's on Okra's website. I think we're going to do a Q&A, and if you want to hold your question, and then I would be happy to come over there. I have lived in childcare and education for the past 20 years. I can jump over and try and help you find them. I can tell you some aren't out yet. I believe they are coming out at the end of this month.
Thank you.
Perfect. And I am going to speak now about one of our programs called Ohio Reach. My name is Megan Modine. Like I introduced myself at the beginning, I am the coordinator of Ohio Reach here in Ohio. And this is a program that is a partnership between the Ohio Children's Alliance and the Ohio Department of Higher Education. with the goal of supporting former foster youth who are reaching for higher education. We're going to look real quickly at some outcomes for former foster youth. There was a 2020 survey on students who had emancipated from foster care, and the statistics showed things like 32% of them didn't have rent money, 33% were food insecure, 26% did not have funding for transportation, nearly 40% were struggling with employment, and over 40% were reporting difficulties with emotional health. So these are statistics that may be familiar to quite a few of us when we look at the outcomes for former foster youth. So our goal at Ohio Reach is to kind of combat some of these and help these students actually be successful in higher education. Nationally, nearly 20% of young adults who age out of foster care become homeless, and roughly 3% end up earning a four-year degree, which is obviously much lower than the statistic for the general population. There was a 2022 study that just came out that found that out of former foster youth who even enrolled in higher education, so this was looking at former foster youth who went through the process of enrolling beginning at a community college, only 8% of them reached graduation, and in the same community colleges, the average graduation rate was 32%. So the graduation rate for former foster youth was significantly lower, even, like I said, once you look at students once they're already enrolled in school. In 2016, Ohio had over 14,000 post-secondary students who had a history in foster care, which is a large number. We know that around 1,000 young adults emancipate from foster care every year in Ohio. And then obviously when we look at those students combined through multiple years and the students who were in foster care but did not emancipate, who exited the system in another way, that ends up being a pretty large number of students. And then out of that 14,000, that 3,600 were eligible as independent students. So those are students who had emancipated at some point in time. So Ohio Reach is a network of professionals, advocates, and students across Ohio who are determined to support former foster youth on their higher education journey. We provide resources to institutions, to child welfare agencies, and directly to foster care alum who are enrolled in higher education to support their academic success. Some history on Ohio Reach. So Ohio Reach was initially a passion project, you could say, formed in 2007 by a group of advocates and former foster youth who had seen other states having programs that supported college, had enrolled in college themselves, and had realized the lack of resources. So they got together, formed a committee, and made a proposal. In 2012, they took some national models. Like I said, other states have had programming like this for quite some time, and they started building out what we call our campus liaison programs. In 2019, Chancellor Gardner and the Governor DeWine announced a short-term certificate program, had been awarded to 16 community colleges and 3 universities, which is a program that provides financial support to former foster youth who are earning a short-term certificate. And there is quite a few of these universities still in 2022 do have funding available. So that is also information that you can find by reaching out to us or on our website. But there are quite a few universities who have funding. It is a $2,000 cash grant to students who are doing a certificate that takes less than a year to complete. And then in 2020, Scholar House 3 opened in Columbus, which is housing that is designed specifically for young adults who have emancipated from foster care and are attending university in Columbus. So it is a specific dorm type housing, though it is not a dorm, where young adults can live while they attend university. They have common areas, they have a fridge that is stocked, kitchens, and then they have individual apartments as well. And then today, like I said, Ohio Reach is administered by Children's Alliance through a partnership with the Ohio Department of Higher Education. These are our current network universities. So like I had mentioned, the Campus Liaison Program is a big part of what we do. So these are the universities that are currently a piece of that. This list is always kind of changing and expanding with the hopes that we will have more universities in the future. But these universities all have a campus liaison. So that is somebody that is a point of contact for former foster youth on the campus. Depending on the size of the university, they offer different programming. I'm going to touch specifically on one of them, but they offer everything from assistance with housing over breaks, connections to community resources like shelters and food pantries, social events, lunch and learns, specific career services, tutoring, whatever it is that they're finding that their students who are in foster care need assistance with. This is something that I'm going to touch on just for one program. So our program at OSU main campus is called FAN, Fostering Achievement Network. This program is run by a student actually at OSU who was emancipated from foster care. This is kind of a list of the things that she offers to students. So they have opportunities to build confidence and knowledge about campus and community resources and job opportunities. They do monthly membership meetings with enrichment activities with the goal of relationship building, community support, and tools for success. So these are sometimes social pizza parties. Sometimes they may have a speaker or a specific topic that they are discussing. They do volunteer and advocacy opportunities in the community. They do achievement stipends and care packages. That is something that quite a few of our programs do. Columbus State is another program that does an additional stipend for students at the end of each semester who participate in the programming. There is also emergency financial aid from Ohio Reach, which I will touch on later, but that is kind of a safety net for students who find themselves coming across an emergency situation. They offer professional attire, interview clothes and suiting when needed for students who are either entering the workforce, have an internship, service learning, or an interview. And then they have their own website specifically that they allow their students access to where they have resources, scholarship opportunities, and just kind of more information for the students. So like I said, our campus programs vary, but this is kind of a base of what a lot of them do to support students and some of the things that we found helpful for young adults who are in university. And then these specific campus liaison programs are open to any student who has any history in foster care. So they do not need to have emancipated from foster care. They can have exited foster care through reunification or adoption or emancipation at any point in time. As long as they were placed in foster care at some point in time, they are eligible to join these programs. Like I said, there's a wide variety of programming. Some have specific housing, some have additional scholarships, specific classes, and all of that different kind of support, as well as that liaison who is almost, some of the universities call them a concierge. It's somebody that a student can reach out to directly and ask their questions to, somebody who maybe understands a little bit more, has more experience working in child welfare. So it's just one person that they can ask questions to who can then connect them with other on-campus resources and save them the trouble of navigating kind of the university system. We also offer a scholarship. So each year, 3 former foster youth are awarded a renewable scholarship. This scholarship is $1,000 per semester, up to twice a year. So per each semester, usually the fall semester and the spring semester, up to 5 years. So it is renewable. Students apply for it. Each year we are able to award 3 students with the scholarship, and then as long as they remain in school, every semester that they are in school, they are able to renew and receive their scholarship again. And this is kind of, it's a more flexible scholarship where obviously it can be used for tuition, but we do see that quite a few of our students, either through the FAFSA, ETV funding, or other grants, have their tuition pretty covered, so they're able to use this for additional expenses, for housing, for books, for transportation, any sort of needs that they're going to have during their semester. And then up to 5 years, so it can be renewed 10 times total if they are going to either attend graduate school or if they need an extra semester of undergrad. We also offer an emergency fund, or the safety net, which was mentioned briefly on the FAN slide. So this is emergency funding that is available to former foster youth who are enrolled in higher education. So they are able to apply for this up to once a year for this emergency fund. The qualifications are really that they are enrolled in higher education, they were in foster care, and they have some sort of emergent situation. I will talk about specifically kind of what we usually see for these. So this is information on our emergency funds from the past year. So you can see the little bar is the frequency that request was made. So this is, I think, a good example of kind of what students and young adults who were in foster care are struggling with as they're in college. You see the top one is housing. We see a lot of students who may have an emergency housing situation, a situation with a roommate. Their housing may be unstable and they need to move, or they need help with a security deposit, they need help getting initial housing. So housing is the first one that we see, followed by food. So obviously those are two essential needs that we're still seeing. Even these students, these young adults who are enrolled in higher education are still struggling to meet those basic needs, followed by transportation. We are able to help with car repairs if they get in an accident or something happens with their car and they use their car to get to school. We are able to assist with funding that, as well as bus passes and stuff like that. And then bills and utilities, and then you can see kind of the three smaller ones here are technology, broken laptops, stuff like that, tuition and fees. Like I said, we see a little bit less of that with this because quite a few of our students either receive scholarships or filled out their FAFSA correctly, and then clothing and other household items as well. So for both the emergency requests and the scholarship, like I had mentioned, they have to have been in foster care. For the scholarship, they do have to have been in care after the age of 13, after their 13th birthday, but like I said, they do not have to have had emancipated. We obviously recognize that a lot of the things that may be barriers for young adults who emancipated from care can very well be barriers for students who were either adopted or who were reunified. Perfect. And then I will talk just briefly about the importance of this support. Obviously, like I said, we know that students and young adults struggle, that there may be barriers to their education, and we also know how important it is that they seek higher education if that's something that they are interested in. It is a great way to, open up a door for their future, to have them have success long term. So we know that's really important, and we know that increased support helps them reach those goals. We also support young adults. This is obviously university and college, but any post-secondary education. So trade schools, tech schools, short-term certificate programs, anything that is post-high school, any sort of school education, furthering opportunity, cosmetology, like I said, trade, tech, electrical, plumbing, all of that counts. They're eligible for the scholarship and all of the other programming support. So this is some information on first year community college outcomes. So the success measures here were higher GPA and earning more credit hours, which obviously a higher GPA is a great measure of success. It shows that they're performing well in their classes, and earning more credit hours is great as well because that is more classes that they have passed and the closer they are to their degree. So these are some things that were shown to impact that. So students who receive student support grants, additional grants from their school, or grants from additional programs that supported them for tuition or for other needs. Pell Grants through filling out their FAFSA correctly. Concurrent enrollment is a big one. So that is when a student who is in high school is concurrently enrolled and receiving college credit while they're in high school. Former foster youth were more likely to create an education plan with support. So when you look at a campus liaison and better access to academic advising, or somebody who can kind of walk with them throughout their college journey, and they have that support, and they sit down and they actually have a plan for their education and a plan for what they want to do, they're much more likely to achieve those goals. And then former foster youth, in general, it was found that when they had support, they're more likely to seek and receive counseling services, which also leads to higher levels of success with college. And most of our campus liaisons, if not all of them, are well connected with their student support services or their student counseling or their student mental health services, so that they are able to directly make those referrals with students between those services, and then with specific staff within those departments at the university who have experience working in child welfare or have experience working with former foster youth, just for an easier connection. And like I said, just somebody who maybe understands a little bit better.
Hello, my name's Kelsey Ancona. I am the Bridges Data and Compliance Coordinator. So Bridges is kind of a transition from emancipated former foster youth into adulthood. It was in 2016 that Ohio became the 25th state to establish a 4E extension program with House Bill 50. Unlike some other states, Ohio did not expand its foster care system. Instead, they created this new and distinct program called Bridges that was designed to support our youth as they age out of the system and help them successfully transition into adulthood. Before the launch of the program, ODJFS researched similar programs in other states, and then they formed an advisory council that was made up of provider agencies, juvenile court staff, other stakeholders, as well as former foster youth themselves. And then from there, they kind of developed this program. So the collaborative, which is a subsidiary of Ohio Children's Alliance, was chosen by Ohio Department of Job and Family Services to administer Bridges, and this was the first time that a 4A extension was managed in a single network provider. So like I mentioned, it is not extended foster care. One of the main differences from Bridges is that it's a completely voluntary program. So anybody that emancipates that wishes to continue on with supportive services and case management, they're welcome to enroll in the program as long as they meet our eligibility requirements, but they're also welcome to leave at any time. Who's eligible? Someone who has left the custody of a PCSA in Ohio, and they are 18, 19, or 20. Once they turn 21, then they kind of transition out of our program, and they must be enrolled in one of the following criteria. They need to be pursuing some sort of educational endeavor, whether that be working on getting their high school diploma or GED, or enrolled in some sort of post-secondary option, a college, public or private, a community college, vocational program, technical school, like Megan had mentioned with Ohio Reach, those types of programs. They could be enrolled in a program to reduce barriers, CCMAP, Job Corps, any type of job skills training, or they're employed. They have to work a minimum of 80 hours a month, so about 20 hours a week, part-time job, and receiving pay stubs, or enrolled in AmeriCorps, some type of internship or externship. And those that are not capable due to a physical or mental impairment are also welcome to enroll in the program as long as they are qualified under a qualified practitioner. So these are our 5 regions of Ohio. So we serve every county in Ohio. It's broken up into 5 regions. Through our provider agencies, we have 21 provider agencies across Ohio that serve all of the counties. Currently, we have 84 of our counties that our participants are residing in. So to get started with Bridges, we do have a referral process. So someone like yourself could fill out our referral form online, or the young adult themselves could also fill out their referral. From there, our intake and referral coordinator will link them up with our provider agency wherever the young adult resides, and then start them on that process of getting enrolled in the program. So some of the benefits of our program, all of the young adults are linked with a Bridges liaison, and they will provide them with supports and resources so that they're more prepared for adulthood. We have a lot of better outcomes, like Megan had stated on the statistics of emancipated foster youth. We really work to bridge that gap, so that way when we're transitioning into adulthood, they have those supportive resources and they're leading their lives that they wish to lead. We provide long-term and stable housing support. We are not a housing resource specifically, but our provider agencies do have relationships with several housing resources or leasing companies to get young adults their first apartment, or in some type of community housing if that's something that they need. We do provide financial assistance, so young adults receive a monthly payment to help cover rent, utilities, any type of personal incidentals. We also provide emergency funds and normalcy funds to help young adults, keep some normalcy in their life. They don't have the support after they emancipate to help throw a graduation party or a bridal shower or even a baby shower for some of our young parents. So we provide funds for them to be able to experience those type of normalcy activities, as well as emergency situations, car repairs, first month's rent, security deposits, dependent care needs, anything along those lines, educational or employment needs. We also, with the Bridges Liaison, they have access to supportive adult services, and then they learn more about the education of their community resources. So since we have provider agencies across the state of Ohio, they are well versed in those specific community resources that they can reach out to. Some of the requirements when you are in Bridges, you will have a monthly visit with your liaison, and building that relationship between your liaison and the young adult. It is a young adult driven plan, so they will come up with their own goals and plans that are reviewed every 90 days. Maybe, they wish to save a certain amount of money before they leave the program, or they want to get enrolled in college, or whatever it is. We've also had young adults that have been able to save up enough money for a down payment on their house, so when they transition out of the program, they're now homeowners. Our Bridges liaisons help with any critical thinking, home management and life skills, anything from grocery shopping and budgeting to laundry, cooking, help with resumes, interview skills, looking over lease agreements. Our liaisons will go with our young adults to apartment tours and make sure they're asking the right questions, not getting led down some strange path, setting up their utilities. These are all things that for the first time these young adults are asked to do, and they don't really know quite how to do that, so our liaisons help bridge that gap. We also make sure that they have healthcare coverage, and walking through the process of filling out all that paperwork with Medicaid can be a bit confusing, as well as finding a doctor, even getting linked up with mental health services. Education will help them pursue whatever their educational goals are, research programs or universities that have those specific interests, community resources, like I had mentioned, anything from Help Me Grow for some of our young mothers, or CCMEP, and Ohio Reach as well. We have several of our participants that are also a part of Ohio Reach. Employment and career preparation, financial management, self-advocacy, so really walking our young adults through how to self-advocate if they have a situation at their job or whatever it may be. Health and self-care, and then the permanent connections. Several of our young adults, even after they transition out of the Bridges program, remain in contact with the liaison for years to come. So far, we have had 2,346 unique participants that we have served, and about 620 just since July. With Bridges being a voluntary program, they are allowed to re-enroll as many times as they wish. If they had lost their eligibility, or they just decided to take a break from the program, not for them, and then later decide that that's something that they would want to come back to, they can re-enroll as many times as they want before their 21st birthday. We've had about a 78% attain a high school diploma or GED while they're in Bridges, 31% currently enrolled in a secondary or post-secondary education option, and 62% of our participants are currently enrolled. 67% of our total eligible participants to re-enroll have re-enrolled. So typically they do a little bit better the second time around after they understand the program and really understand the supports and services that we are able to provide. Is there any questions for any of us?
I have one regarding Bridges.
Bridges, mhm.
I'm sorry that I needed to step out.
Oh, you're fine.
But the inception of Bridges was when, please?
Oh, our program officially started in February of 2018. It was signed in 2016.
Okay. And so our keynote speaker this morning gave us data in terms of the number of kids in the system, the number of kids who have left the system. And I'm just curious, how do we ensure, in these five regions, right? Regional offices, how are we ensuring that these youth know that this service is available to them? I'm formerly from an agency that had a program working with kids that were emancipating out of foster care, that had a lot of built-in supports. And it was a relatively small program. But so from their inception, and I don't mean to be critical, but it's just my observation, that since 2018, for only 2,300 some kids to have received service, it seems like there is somehow information is not getting to the masses that are eligible, and we're likely seeing them in the homeless population.
It could be, yeah. We have been growing as this is our 4th year that Bridges has been around. It has been growing. We do work with our county partners in the PCSAs in the counties to try to build those relationships to get our young adults referred to the program. But since it is a voluntary program, we just find that some of them, after they emancipate, they just want to be done. Bridges is very different from being in foster care, but at the same time, we're doing the home visits and that type of thing. So, some kids just prefer to move on.
And I understand that because in my former organization's program, oftentimes we had kids coming from homelessness because they just wanted to be done with the rules that they found very stringent when they were in foster care about socialization and those kinds of things that they were being kept from. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. I'm aware of that dynamic. Yeah.
And somebody else.
So my question earlier is, I'm on the OCCRA site.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate to the training.
Are you registered in that site yet?
No, but I'm also having a hard time getting it to stay up. It keeps coming up and saying there's a problem with the site.
My suggestion is when you can get home to like a laptop computer, if you have that one, it is much more user-friendly than their app version. What you will need to do to be able to access that training is just register, and they will give you, I believe it's a 6 to 8 digit, they call it an OPIN number. And then once you have that, you can filter through any topics. If there are online trainings, what I usually do is I start with like the free ones because they're usually pretty good. If you type in like trauma, you can get their trauma informed care certificate is through Okra as well, which anyone can attain by taking just their trainings online. You can learn about STEM, you can learn about infant or early childhood development. Then it gets pretty specific into if you want to learn about math, if you want to learn about reading. But I will tell you, just need one of those OPIN numbers, so you'll need to register, which is just like registering for any other site, just your name, address. But if you have a few minutes, I can try and help you through my computer if you want to do that. Yes, ma'am, back in you.
I had two questions. The first one was in response to the Bridges, because one of my teen moms went through the Bridges program when it first rolled out. We learned about it through her caseworker. So it was the caseworker who had to bring us the information. And she was just like how you were saying, she was so tired of rules that once she got there and she realized how it was structured, where she still had visits and she had rules to abide by, she was no longer interested in the program. Because I think we were going to be a host home at one point, and then she moved into independent living. So I do find that as soon as the youth find out that they still are under more rules, that's typically a turn off, just from my experience with the teens that I've had who was presented with Bridges. But my second question though was the one about the Ohio infant mental health.
Yes.
That graph that you had where it looked like half of it was going to rural.
Yes.
And then urban and suburban had to split.
So
it was like 50 and 25 or something like that.
Yes. So with that program, right there, with that program, we had 12 of our member agencies are going to be awarded the grant. And what we asked them to do was tell us what counties you serve. A lot of them serve Hamilton, a lot of them serve Franklin, a lot of them serve Cuyahoga. We know that there are a lot of our member agencies serve that area and provide services for that area. For an example, I'm from Knox County. We have maybe 2 providers for our entire county. I have a background in Head Start. I had a lot of foster children, a lot of children that were in kinship care. A lot of them would have to travel out of county to receive some sort of mental health service for someone in that age group, because it's very hard for children to receive a diagnosis in mental health. The DSM-5, there's like maybe 2, and it's really difficult. The children can be presenting extreme, severe issues to be even diagnosed. So what we're trying to do is, with this program, we just know that, yes, we have our urban counties, which are Franklin, Cuyahoga, Hamilton, the few that surround those. Partial rural is like Delaware, Union. So we're still about over 50% covering those urban areas, but we just know we are really happy to have some that are going to the rural sites, because some families will travel 45 minutes to an hour, like from my county, to come down to Children's, or an hour to get to Akron, and those are the closest ones.
The chart looks like 25% is going to urban and 75% is going to rural or partial rural. So that was what concerned me.
Sure.
Because it looks like mostly 75% of the funding is going to children in rural counties, which that just shocked me, that the urban counties they're not even getting 50%. So that just kind of shocked me.
Sure.
And I was wondering who came up with that 75% will go to rural or partially rural, and who determined that the urban only needed about 25% of that assistance.
So how that came up was, that is our graphic of what counties our providers cover. So
your providers are primarily in rural areas. So
some of them cover, I would say, they are not primarily in rural areas. They're expanding into rural areas. They may already have, this was to create new credentials. Right now, I think there's about 55 early childhood mental health credentials in the entire state. Some of them are at Nationwide, professionals at Nationwide Children's. They cover 16 counties, Franklin just being one of them. So they might also cover a rural county. So we included that in our graphic. Does that make sense to you? So we know that the majority of our already established credentials are already in urban counties. So this will also push those urban counties to have more support. And also where there's no support, like in Morrow County, for example, they might not have any. So now they might have 3. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a 23-year-old adoptive, foster child adopted, and she is currently unable to hold down a job. She has FASD, been denied Social Security 2 times. Where does she go?
It's one of us. Thinking on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so Bridges, the one thing with Bridges is Bridges support does end at the age of 21, which we recognize that there are a lot of young adults or just adults who are no longer young who may need supportive services. Ohio Reach does cover all ages and non-traditional students, but obviously that would require some sort of post-secondary education.
Yes.
ETV goes to 26. Educational Training Voucher Program goes to 26. If you would ever be interested in a certificate.
She doesn't
But-
have a GED or anything?
Yeah, okay. There are also GED programs as well that are open to any age that she would be able to do if she's interested in a GED program.
Have you checked with like the county services?
Or there is something called OOD, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. Might be a good place if she would qualify, and I believe she would qualify. They offer job skills or they offer job coaching, which is a fantastic resource because they will
That's
have,
what she's gonna need,
They-
because
yes.
she gets hired because she looks normal.
yeah, invisible
And after a while,
disability.
they find
Yep.
out that, gee, she's got
I would check out OOD as well as some of the job like readiness programs that Kelsey mentioned, Job Corps,
CCMAP.
CCMAP, and then OOD. Usually will have kind of additional support as far as job searches, job training. Like I said, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities offers job coaching in a variety of ways, but I do believe that they still operate a program where a job coach can even attend work with them sometimes to kind of like actually look at their hard skills when they're at work and provide feedback with that.
Okay.
So yeah, the 3, Job Corps, CCMAP, and OOD are all kind of great job readiness programs.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. Any other questions? No? I know we are a little early, but we will be here if anybody has any further questions. I will flip back to this final slide with our email addresses on it. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any further questions, you want any resources, if you have any children or young adults who could benefit from any of our programming, please reach out and feel free to ask us any questions while we hang out up here until the next session.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.